You ready? Let's go. We on the mission, yeah, we on the mission. You all know the mission, that's destroy opposition.
Oh no, maybe a little contact off of turn 4.
The winner at Berlin.
That's impressive.
We on the mission, yeah, we on the mission. The mission is to win and destroying competition.
Welcome back to the Snacks 200 at Berlin Raceway. As the field begins to roll off on their parade and pace laps, we will see how tonight's race is going to unfold, as this racetrack has proven to be electric in years past with the ARCA Menard Series. Earlier on this afternoon, General Tire Polo Work qualifying took place, and the most recent winner at Berlin Raceway was able to snag the top spot.
Yeah, William had a pretty good gap on the field in practice, a lot closer in qualifying, about a half a tenth of a second. As a matter of fact, he had the same gap over second that was separated second through sixth. 5 cars separated by a half a tenth of a second.
That may give us a hint as to what's in store here tonight. The Snacks starting grid is going to be on the left-hand side of your picture as the field begins to roll off here on their parade and pace laps, with Sawalich on the pole, and Gavin Bichelle will be joining them on the front row. And speaking of that young driver making his ARCA Menard Series debut, here is our Bounty Rookie Spotlight on that of Mooresville, North Carolina native in Gavin Bichelle.
I've actually watched him race at Millbridge. He races all sorts of different vehicles. Got his start in karts way back when, and now he runs everything from sprint cars, midgets, and getting his feet wet a little bit in some late model cars. And this will be his first ever ARCA Menard Series start here for Venturinis.
Spoke to Gavin earlier in the week, and he said that the experience he had here in the super late model race, the Money in the Bank 150 a couple weeks ago, gave him a sense of comfort coming into this debut, and I guess that shows with that front row appearance as he'll be lining up alongside of Sawalich for the start of this race.
Yeah, he had a top 5 finish, and that was a really strong field of cars here, and a couple Cup drivers in that field as well.
So Bichelle and Sawalich going to be on that front row, and Sawalich the pole sitter, Andres Perez the point leader alongside of his teammate in that of LeVar Scott. And Sean Hagnerani, as you mentioned off the top, Phil, the reigning ARCA Menard Series West champion, back in ARCA Menard Series competition with Venturini Motorsports, and he is certainly someone we are going to keep our eye on.
Yeah, he's running for the West Series Championship once again. He's actually second in points right now. They've had 4 races, and he's driven for 3 different teams during those 4 races. Let's take a look at our track description. 7/16 paved oval, that means it's a small half. That's what we call it in racing. You see the turns are banked at 13 degrees. Our front straightaway is banked at 9 degrees, and this track opened back in a great year in 1957.
So much history as far as how this race goes. And Phil, our race analysis, 200 laps, just under 88 miles.
Yeah, see, we're going to have 2 race breaks on or near lap 75 and 125. You see, our winner last year was William Sawalich, and our first winner back in 1958 was my brother Benny's arch rival back in ARCA, Les Snow.
The history between the ARCA Menard Series and Berlin Raceway runs deep, and we're going to write the next chapter here tonight. William Sawalich, defending winner at Berlin, alongside a driver making his ARCA Menard Series debut in Gavin Bichelle. Green flag is in the air. The Snacks 200 is underway from Martin, Michigan. Sawalich elected the bottom side on the front row, and he's going to go to the lead, while the points leader, Andres Perez, in the 2, inside of outside front row starter Gavin Bichelle in the 55 in the battle for second, as Sawalich leads lap 1.
A couple of interesting parts of this racetrack. No outside wall on the backstretch, and also you will see these drivers come down below the racetrack on the apron as they exit turn 4 right next to pit wall.
Drivers oftentimes don't really get a break here. We may call it a front or back straightaway, but these drivers are going to be working that steering wheel all night long, as is Sean Hagnerani inside of his Venturini Motorsports teammate Bichelle to try to move up to 3rd.
Great side-by-side battle here. First start of the year for Venturinis for Hagnerani as well as Bichelle. Hagnerani has that 2nd spot.
Hagnerani called this a bit of a homecoming for him to come back to the Venturini stable for not only this race, but 5 more that will be split across the ARCA Menard Series and the ARCA Menard Series West as well, as he gets up into 3rd, with Bichelle now falling back into the clutches of LeVar Scott, who looks inside, and they almost come together off 4.
Ooh, look at the lap cars already. They're having to drive around the lap cars. That allowed Bichelle to ease out in front of the 6 of LeVar Scott. But LeVar Scott's showing some strength early here in that 6 car.
Good job by the leaders to get around Chris Golden and Dale Scherer, who almost got together in turn 1 about a lap ago, and that's going to allow Bichelle to pretty much stop the bleeding at this point after starting second and falling back to fourth ahead of that of LeVar Scott. Here's the lead in which Sawallic has been able to build up already, Phil, almost 1 second, just 6 laps into this race.
Yeah, watch the line that the 18 is running here. You see he drifts up a little bit, center of the corner, and dips back to the bottom. Doesn't really even get all the way out to the grass out there, but watch when he gets to the center of the corner. From the second lane, he'll just turn hard left if that car hadn't been there. He would have driven off right next to that inside wall.
I've heard some people describe the exit of turn 4 as you get the car on the flat and you point it right to the flag stand coming off the corner to make it as straight of an exit as possible. And you can see Sawallic already in some pretty heavy lap traffic going around the number 31 of Tim Goulet. As we see this fight for fourth beginning to intensify again, and not far behind these two, you'll see another Venerini car in Toni Breidinger. And Phil, you pointed out she has had a tremendous climb up the championship standings these last couple of races.
Yes, he jumped up to fourth. He's had a solid season, has had good pace. Last year was really a coming out party for Toni. Some strong run here. Had a top 5 finish at Berlin here. Iowa last year was the one that I really felt like she really showed her stuff. Was running in the 3rd spot for a good part of that race. Ended up with a top 5 there as well.
Toni's got some momentum on her side as well, coming off her best finish of the season so far at Mid-Ohio last week. For more on Toni, let's go to Heather.
And Phil, you mentioned it. She jumped up 4 spots in the standings, and I asked her, how are you going to keep this momentum going? And she said, you know what, I'm really confident about the tracks that are ahead of us and coming up in the schedule. And she said also consistency is going to be key, which means finishing races without an issue. But I talked to Billy Venturini today, and he told me that Toni might be the sleeper for tonight's race. So keep an eye on the 25 to see if she can up that finish she got here last year of 5th.
Right now, Toni's doing a really good job reeling in this fight for fourth that just won't go away, with Michelle holding it in the 55, LeVar Scott there in 5th in car 6, Toni Breidinger just behind there in that number 25.
Yeah, her running this well on a short track is what really impresses me. And again, she did that last year. It's one thing as we see LeVar Scott trying to get that nose inside of the 55 of Michelle, but it takes so much technique on these short tracks with your feet and your hands and everything working together. And look at her, she's chasing down that battle.
As you can see, one of the big stories tonight may be that of traffic. This battle up in the top 5 is having to weave its way around a handful of cars that have fallen off the lead lap. The lead for William Sawallic up to about 2 seconds as you see LeVar Scott and Michelle having to split Ryan Roulette in a 12, with the battle continuing on the backstretch.
I thought LeVar Scott was going to be able to make that move and make it stick, but Michelle got a little bit of momentum from the high side and stayed out in front.
Going to allow Michelle to hold the spot in what was a thread-the-needle moment in this battle for a top 5 spot. Our first potential Reese's Sweet move of the race.
See, Ryan Roulette just held his line. He allowed both these drivers to get to the inside and the outside. But watch the momentum from the high side for Michelle to stay out in front of LeVar Scott.
Way down to the bottom of the track is that of LeVar Scott in order to thread that needle, as he was able to hold on to that position. As we come back here to see that the first caution flag is out on the night, and unfortunately is a car we just had our eyes on, in that of Ryan Roulette in turn 3. So Roulette will draw the first yellow of the night. We'll resort the field, and we'll come back here to the Her Snacks 200 right after this. ARCA Menards Series Racing on FS1 is brought to you by Menards. Save big money at Menards. And by Bounty. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. Welcome back to the Berlin Raceway, the Her Snacks 200, under our first caution of the night after the driver that was running in the 13th spot, Ryan Roulette, got turned around in turn number 3, sustained some damage to the backside of his race car and slowed the field for the first time, erasing the lead that William Sawallic had worked so hard to build up.
Yeah, what a nice crowd, though. Had a couple great crowd shots. They really support this ARCA Menards Series here in Berlin.
Heather caught up with General Manager Jeff Striegel earlier and said many residents in some of the neighboring towns are still without power after a nasty band of storms came through earlier in the week. The track was not spared from some of the destructive weather. They had a lot of work to do, including clearing about 6 inches of water in depth from the infield in order to have cars and vehicles and race haulers parked and ready. They even had to clean up some trees that came down. Hats off to everybody at the Speedway for all that they did to give this great crowd here tonight a comfortable place to watch a race. Newcomer on the front row for the restart. Sawalich on the inside of the 18, the race leader. Andres Perez to the outside of the 2 as they hit the restart line. And Hangarani on the throttle as well inside of row 2 in the 20, trying to get up to second as we get back underway.
A big advantage for Hangarani to be on the inside of that second row. See, Perez thought about just fighting back to the inside, but right now Hangarani has that spot chasing down Sawalich.
Talked about battles over the years between the 18 and 20 cars. We may be in store for another edition of that tonight at Berlin. Sawalich the leader, Hangarani in the 20 in second, Perez third. And now we'll see what Hangarani can do after starting in 5th spot with the car that has thus far been the dominator, albeit very early in this race.
It really doesn't matter who's driving that 20 car. It just seems like the 18 and the 20 just gravitate towards each other.
Right now the separation about a half second for that of our most recent winner in the ARCA Menard Series and race leader William Sawalich. Here's a pair of teammates going at it. One of them, Andres Perez in the 2, has prior Berlin experience, while his teammate LeVar Scott does not. Scott also coming off of what was his first road course start at Mid-Ohio last week. He was able to finish relatively strong there in 14th spot, making it all the way to the finish. But now back on a type of configuration in which he is most comfortable with. He cut his teeth on a lot of short tracks, albeit a lot of them of a different surface. He's a former dirt racer, is that of Scott. In fact, he still runs some dirt races at Millbridge.
Yeah, you talk about Andres Perez, and consistency is what marked this young man's career. Remember last year, he wasn't even old enough to race at Daytona. Ended up finishing second points, only running 19 of the 20 races, but just piled up the top 5s, piled up the top 10s, doing the same thing this year. He finished 12th at our opening race at Daytona. Every race since, top 10 finishes.
Perez been knocking on the door for that first career ARCA Menard Series win after his best career finish was second twice. Did it on the Springfield Dirt last year in Salem as well. Did that of Perez. You see Ryan Roulette back out there on the racetrack, and the teammates in the Rev Racing cars working their way by clearly on the top side.
Yeah, Perez really had the best car at Michigan, ended up losing an engine at Michigan, but he was headed towards his first victory there. We'll be going back to Michigan here before too much longer.
Didn't take long for the race leader Sawalich to start to find some cars at the tail end of the field, with Hangarani trying to nurse at about 1 second advantage. As you see Sawalich going around the outside of Alex Clubb's car. Here's Christian Rose in the 32 for AM Racing, that is, trying to hold off Amber Balkin in what is a battle inside the top 10.
Yeah, Christian started out really strong this year, had a top 5 finish at Daytona. Came back with a top 5 finish at Talladega. Actually led the points at one point during the season. Then he ran into a little bit of bad luck. Stopped the bleeding in the last couple of races with 11th place finishes.
Trying to get back up and stay into the top 10 is that of Christian Rose. You want to talk about someone who's had a topsy-turvy season so far. How about that of Amber Balkin, even having to come back from injury after a crash, ironically, with the car that was out the windshield right now, and Christian Rose at Dover. Rebounded from that quite well to score a top 10 effort the following week in Kansas, but then more bad luck at Iowa. 16th last time out at Mid-Ohio for that of Amber Balkin, who runs in the top 10 right now, but looking for a spot there on Rose, who also split some traffic and won.
Yeah, this traffic has been pretty strong for all these competitors. So far doing a nice job of navigating the traffic is Amber Balkin and Christian Rose.
Fortunately, that cost Amber a little bit of time there in that fight for the 9th spot, as she's fallen about a second off of the back bumper of the 32. Trying to regroup and hope to do it again or fight further forward.
William Sawalich is setting such a torrid pace. It's not going to take long before he catches some of us, possibly some of our top 10 runners here, if we stay green.
Even though Sawalich has only run 4 races so far this season in the ARCA Menard Series, 2 of which, of course, he won, Phoenix and Mid-Ohio, he came into this night as the driver who has led the most laps of anyone anyone else in the series with 185. And so far, he just continues to add to that total, does that of Sawalich. And I think the bad news is, Phil, he's starting to come back to some of these venues that he's already been to in 2023. And of course, here he went to Victory Lane.
Yeah, and you talk about his speed, his consistency is what's been amazing as well. 17 career starts here in the ARCA Menard Series, 15 top 10 finishes. He got wrecked at Dover earlier this year. Is one of those finishes in his very first ARCA Menard Series race at Phoenix. He actually sat on the pole and got involved in an incident and did not get a top 10 finish there. But consistency is the key to this young man.
See Sawalich catching number 10, Sawyer, Michigan's Matt Kemp, in what was pretty much a last-minute deal. I was talking to Matt during the week, and he said that Andy offered him the opportunity to get behind the wheel of this race car. He's just now falling a lap off the leader, but he did run this race last year and picked up a 13th place for that of Kemp. Happy to see him try to make the most of his opportunity.
Series starter, ARCA Menards East started Rock had a 6th place finish. The dwarf car competitor, he's championship in their series, which is based here up in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. He's won half over the last 2 years and a champion in 22 and 23.
Talk about drivers getting their hands on absolutely anything to race. Matt Kemp certainly puts that on a pedestal as far as being a dwarf car champion with his experience in this part of the country. Sawalich continues to lead over Sean Hagnerani, Andres Perez, LeVar Scott, your top 4. More action from Berlin coming up. Back at Berlin Raceway here in Warren, Michigan. So far, William Sawalich has been the dominator on the night as we just passed the 1/4 distance mark of this 200-lap race, the 9th race of the 2024 season. The driver in which that is trying to pace down William Sawalich is someone that we've talked about several times before in that of the ARCA Menard Series. In fact, right now, the top 2 drivers in this race are our East and West champions. Our Suchi Fast Track driver is the number 20 Venerini Motorsports entry of Sean Hagnerani.
Yeah, we talked about his West Series career. 4 wins, caution on the racetrack now. 4 wins last year on the way to that championship. We're hearing that Christian Rose was involved. Christian was running in the 9th spot. There's our leader. We showed
Rose earlier trying to fend off Amber Balkin, and we see a left front down on the number 11 of Cody Dennison, after he may have been involved in the dust up there as well.
Yeah, we talk about these teams being able to change tires at the break. If they have a damaged tire or a flat tire like Cody does, they will certainly allow that.
Dennison, of course, is someone who we've touched on a few times throughout the season. At Iowa, was with a different team and was swept up in a crash there. Here's Christian Rose, who we believe that may have been the car that which made contact. Take a look at what happened here. Coming off turn 4, there's Rose inside of Dennison, and around goes the 11 off the 4th corner. Oh, that was close.
That was close. Christian Rose was able to stay on the lead lap. As you see, there's our leader, William Sawalich, going by.
So Rose, who was on the lead lap at the time, Dennison, who was running about a little further down the running order at the time, was actually 12th when they made contact. Rose coming off the corner, sent that 11 car sideways. Fortunately for that of Rose, that car doesn't appear to be too worse for the wear after the contact. Dennison, the one who's going to have to come back in and get some fresh rubber on that left front tire. But it does slow this field for the 2nd time tonight. And again, Phil, we've had on or around lap 75 and on or around lap 25 is when we'll see our race breaks.
Yeah, you see the 11 now does have that tire changed. The problem is there's really not a pit road here, so he essentially has to go back in the garage. There's another look at it. You see Christian Rose had a little bit of momentum, got into the back of Dennison. Fortunately, no, other than that left front tire, no damage to that 11 car.
And that was the 10 car, Matt Kemp, another one of the fast track cars that split between the sideways number 11 of Dennison and the outside retaining wall.
We're showing that Matt Kemp will be awarded the free pass, so that will put him back on the lead lap, and we will have 11 cars now on the lead lap. We're inside of 20 laps to go till that first race break.
It's going to be a relatively quick caution as we are going to come to the 1-to-go signal this time by. And for the first time tonight, our front row is going to be made up of the 18 of William Sawalich and the number 20 of Sean Hegnerani for this upcoming restart.
For those of our viewers that are used to watching the Cup or the Xfinity or the Truck Series, you saw the choose cone there, but that's for the local races. They do not choose. The leader has the option of starting on the inside or their outside. Everyone else has to fall in line wherever they are running.
Similarly, there is no restart zone like you may see in some of the other motorsport series as well. There is a restart line identified by 2 red lines at the outside retaining wall. The leader must be the first car to hit that point on each restart, which right now is going to be Sawalich on the bottom, Hegnerani up top as we're back underway at Berlin. And now it is Andres Perez trying to fill the void to the inside of the 20 car. What is a battle for second off 2.
That's how the 20 car was able to get that second spot from Andres Perez on the previous restart. Andres Perez is going to try to take advantage of starting second on the inside row to take that second spot back.
All the while, Sawalich already has about a 2-car length lead built up over that battle for second. Here's the fight for fourth. These two have pretty much been locked together all night long. Gavin Michelle on the inside, LeVar Scott outside in the 6. Scott's pretty much held that spot for the last handful of laps, with Michelle trying to keep the fender inside, and now he just about draws even with Scott in 1 and 2.
These drivers doing really a nice job racing side by side, not making contact. LeVar Scott hanging in there well on the outside. You saw the 55 of Bochelle get a little bit loose up off the corner, but still drives it hard down into turn number 1.
These two putting on a great show for a battle inside of the top 5 right now, and a little bit of room there being given to Michelle on the bottom. Scott trying to give him enough running room should that 55 slide up wide. And Scott gets a good run off the corner. Now Michelle sends it in there. They just about, Phil, I don't know if they touched, but they came awfully close.
Yeah, he drove it in there at least a car length deeper than he had before. But Scott's going to be able to hold on to that spot, at least for the moment.
And look at what this battling is doing. It's allowing Tony Breidinger to close in. It's allowing Chris Wright to close in the number 15 car. This is 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all kind of knotted together on the backstretch, trying to fight it out in what may be a 10-lap run from here to our first race break.
And you can see this 3rd place battle has lost touch, or 4th race place battle, excuse me, has lost touch with the top 3. That's when Bochelle's just sending in the corner. I'm not even sure they touched there, though, Eric.
It was certainly close, but I agree, Phil. I think they may have been able to stay off each other, at least for now. The battle starts to simmer down a little bit, with Scott having about a car length to work with over that of the number 55 of Michelle, as we see Sawalich, who has led every lap so far tonight. But boy, is he in a wad of traffic as he goes around Tim Goulet in the 31, Alex Clubb in the 03, and Matt Kemp, who just got back on the lead lap, trying to stay there to the race break, with Perez trying to make up the most that he can with this traffic engulfing the leader.
Here's the battle for second. That's Perez, the 2 car in second. Hegnerani, the 20 car in third. We're inside of 10 laps to go to that race break on or near lap 75. Good corner there for Hegnerani. Gained some ground on Perez. Matt Kemp, you were talking about in that 10 car for fast track racing.
Seems as though car placement means so much as far as putting down a fast lap here at Berlin. And if you catch a car that may be a little bit off the pace or falling a lap off the leaders at the wrong spot, it can cost you pretty badly in terms of lap time or in races for position.
Yeah, I've been watching this scoring monitor, and naturally the 18 car is typically the fastest car on the racetrack. But when he encounters lap traffic, there are times when he's not even in the top 5 of fastest cars on the racetrack.
We talked about Gavin Michelle having some experience here by running the Money in the Bank 150 not that long ago. How about Chris Wright? He too is someone who came out with a super late model, picked up a top 10 effort there, finished 8th. He said that also has given him some confidence. I got to talk with him a little bit earlier this week, and he said that was pretty much his first look at this racetrack. and it's given him enough of a boost to come in here tonight, hoping to put together a very good run. And he was really looking forward to this race after coming home with that top 10 effort, and that's one of the two big races they have. The Battle at Berlin is coming up as well in about a month or so's time.
Yeah, they do a great job promoting racing up here in this part of the country.
Right now, Wright is working over the backside of not one teammate, but two that is out the windshield. Tony Breidinger up the road on the 25, and the 55 of Gavin Bell, which will get right into 5. Should he be able to pass the cars that are just up.
There's Michael Maples in the 99 car. He's right now running in the 12th position. Battle continues between LeVar Scott and Gavin Bochelle. Just a couple laps away now from that race break. Remember, these teams will be able to put fuel in these cars, be able to change tires. Change 4. They only get 6 for the race. Most of the crew chiefs told me they will put 2 tires on now. They'll save those 4 new tires for their lap 125 break.
Should be a 75 lap run to the finish after that second race break. Battle is literally go right up to our third caution of the night and our first scheduled race break. With William Sawallic having been the dominant car all night, Andres Perez, Sean Hagnerani, your top 3. Sawallic looking for back-to-back wins in the ARCA Menard Series. Led all the way thus far. We'll be right back after this. Under our third caution of the night, but our first for what is our scheduled race break here on lap 75. And these are the pit procedures in which we will see these teams exercise during this first opportunity to touch their race cars.
Yeah, these teams will be allowed 4 crew members to work on these cars. They can change tires, as we talked about. More than likely, they'll put 2 tires on here, and then they will add fuel, and our restored order will be set by the field as they came down pit road at the time of the caution. Again, you just have to be able to beat the clock. You have to be back on the racetrack before the 5-minute clock is up.
Gives these teams a chance to perhaps work on their race cars, as they've gotten not quite to halfway in this race just yet, but they have learned enough to see what direction they may have to go to get their cars to be a little bit stronger, because so far tonight it has been all about our defending race winner on the ARCA Menard Series, and that of William Sawallic, also defending race winner here as well at Berlin Raceway. And you see the teams being given the go-ahead to start working on their cars. Let's get some updates from pit road. Heather DeVoe is standing by.
And we will start with the 18 of William Sawallic, who's looking to defend his win here from last year. And I asked him, how are you going to go about approaching that? And he said, I really have to save the rear tires, especially the left rear, since we're only going to take 2 tires here on this spot. But as far as how his handling is going, they're only going to make minimal adjustments. They said the right sides will tighten him up. His crew chief, Matt Ross, asked him, are you tight anywhere? And he said, no, he's just a little bit loose. So that's the update there for the 18 of William Sawallic. And then we'll move back to the 2 of Andres Perez, running in the second position. He's telling his team right now he's a little tight in the middle of 1 and 2. Really needs to be in the middle of the corner. Now, this team did not make a mock run during practice, so they have stickers to put on that car right now on those right sides. And his crew chief, Glenn Parker, he's actually from here, Sparta, Michigan, just 15 minutes up the road. And I asked him what it would mean for them to get their first career win, and he said it would be amazing to do that here in front of my family and friends.
And Phil, I don't think the field wanted to hear that Sawallic and company are making minimal adjustments. It sounds like he's very happy with that car.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what happens when you're leading. You're afraid to adjust too much on it because you have such a dominant car. But whereas all your competitors behind you, they know that they're going to have to make their cars better to be able to run with you.
While the teams continue to work on their cars, it's an incredible group of fans that have come out here to the Berlin Raceway. A great crowd here at this track. We'll be back for the restart right after this.
The ARCA Menard Series, we've got it all.
We just won Daytona, baby!
Hunter Zillich gets it done in Dover.
Checker flag's waving. Good job. Way to defend that one, man.
There is the checker flag. The 18 is your winner.
The quick summary as to how we got here, with this being round number 9 of the 2024 ARCA Menard Series, the Her Snacks 200 here in Martin, Michigan at the beautiful Berlin Raceway. Wrapping up our first scheduled race break of the night with William Sawalich, who, as you saw, already collected 2 checkered flags on the season so far, essentially being the dominant car at this point in the race. You see the cars being staged on the racetrack in turns 1 and 2. In which they came off the pit lane, getting set for the restart with the sun beginning to set in front of this beautiful crowd at this beautiful facility.
Yeah, so let's see if any of these teams have been able to make some adjustments to run with that 18 car. You know, we talked, Eric, at the top of the show about these 6 races, these 6 short track races remaining half of our schedule. Time for somebody to maybe make a statement. Well, good news for people like Andres Perez, our regulars, is William Sawalich does not run all the races, so he is not a contender for the championship. So that's something that Andres can mark off. But again, he needs to go up here and maybe challenge this 18 car. Again, these cars have new right side tires on. They made some adjustments. Let's see if Andres Perez, his car is a little bit better relative to the 18 than he was before that break.
Sawalich, a native out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. He's actually circled Elko on his calendar because that was his home track where he actually started racing, one of the only paved tracks that you will find in the state. And he's going to turn 18 later this year. He's going to celebrate a birthday in the latter stages of 2024. That's going to open up the opportunities for him to run some of the bigger tracks. But he's going to be really turning his focus to doing some double duty. IRP is going to run the truck there as well for Tricon Garage, and also the Milwaukee Wild, which is a second home track for the young driver. Yeah, and they've already announced that he will get in that one of the Xfinity cars for Joe Gibbs Racing when he turns 18. So such a bright future for this young man, and he's been fast from the time he stepped in an ARCA car. So, and he's done a nice job in those truck races as well on a limited basis. He's looking to try to add another trophy on the mantle, and what could be his second one from this racetrack for that of Sawalich. He's going to lead us back into the restart line with Andres Perez in the 2, the championship points leader outside, Sean Hagnerani and LeVar Scott in row 2. 80 laps in the books. Next race break, lap 125, as we're back underway from Berlin.
A nice start by Perez, hanging right with Sawalich.
That's the best we've seen anybody all night long in that top lane, and Perez is trying to make it work as they touch up the track for Sawalich. Perez catches the car and is the first new leader on the night.
Let's see if Sawalich is going to use that bumper to move that 2 car out of the way. Great job by Perez on this restart.
Bill, you called it. You said Andres has to get up there and take that lead away, and he did just that off the restart. Andres Perez to the point. Sawalich to second, and Hagnerani's knocking on the back bumper there in that fight for the second spot, while Sawalich tries to reset.
Something Sawalich has not experienced this race, a car in front of him. Even though these speeds are down relative to what we run at other racetracks, you can still get a little bit aero tight behind another car. This is the first time Sawalich has had to face that this race.
You see Sawalich able to keep those left sides and that left front just in a little bit of clean air, as you were talking about, to give him a little bit more of a bit of running room there to get a good vantage point as to how he may want to try to set up Andres to get that lead back. But here is how Perez got the lead.
Yeah, this is going to be my favorite thus far, for him to wrestle this lead away from Sawalich from the outside. Definitely not the preferred line, but a nice bite off the corner there for the 2 of Perez, and there's contact on that replay.
Perez able to hold on to the lead, but here's another potential Reese's Sweep move of the race as William Sawalich is able to get underneath and back by the 2 car in 3 to go back to the point. Remember, visit ARCARacing.com on Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, to see who's going to be crowned with our Reese's Sweep move of the race. We've had several options already, and we're still shy of halfway.
Not only did Perez lose the lead, he lost second, third. Now he's back to 4th spot. His teammate got by as well, LeVar Scott.
Now we've got a pair of our regional ARCA Menard Series champions in the top 2 spots. William Sawalich, defending East Series titleist Sean Hagnerani, defending West Series champion, running 1st and 2nd, with LeVar Scott trying to play the role of the spoiler, also searching for what could be his career ARCA Menard Series win in 3rd.
You saw it right there. That was a great illustration of how bad a break it was for the 20 of Hingorani to catch that lap car right on exit of number 4. We saw Sawalich able to drive that line right there. Hingorani had to drive around the lap car, and that cost him at least a half a dozen car lengths.
And that could happen at any point in the race, and it could erase the deficit in which Sawalich has been able to build because of that moment. You see Scott here now in the tire tracks, the 20 of Hingorani trying to get up to P2.
I tell you, it looks like that 6 car of LeVar Scott is better than it was before that break. They made some good adjustments. Danny Johnson and his crew for that 6 car.
The Carneys Point, New Jersey native, and that of LeVar Scott. You mentioned he's got a lot of experience on dirt. Didn't have a lot of experience in terms of road course racing last time out of Mid-Ohio. But was looking forward to tackle Berlin Raceway for the first time. He's doing a great job tonight as they work their way around Tim Goulet in the 31. He has not lost all that much ground on Hingorani in the battle for the 2nd spot. For more on LeVar Scott, here's Heather.
And in order to get help around this racetrack, he leaned on Daniel Dye, Raja Karuth, and his teammate Andres Perez for what to expect and which lines to run. Also, his crew chief, Danny Johnson, he called Josh Williams, who used to race for him back in 2016, and they won here in the ARCA series together, and he said, hey, I need some help with setup for this week. So Josh Williams chimed in as well to help the 6 team in their efforts tonight.
Well, Eric, I believe it worked. He looks like he's has a pretty darn good car right here.
Started in 4th, running 3rd, looking for more. Sawalich back to the lead, approaching halfway at Berlin. The Hers Snacks 200 here at the Berlin Raceway, about 20 laps away from our 2nd and final scheduled race break on or around lap 125. William Sawalich, although he has not led every lap, he has certainly led the most laps so far by a large margin. Losing the lead to that of Andres Perez, he was able to wrestle it back and continues to hold the point. Phil, one of the drivers we've been talking about not only climbing up the point standings, but also putting together really solid efforts is that 25 of Tony Breidinger.
Yeah, she got her first top 5 of her career here last year with a 5th place finish. As I talked earlier, she had some really solid runs. Finished 3rd at Kansas on the 1.5 mile, but really doing a nice job there. Look who she's racing with. That's Andres Perez, Gavin Bochelle right in front of her. Andres Perez, our point leader. Gavin Bochelle, one of the most promising newcomers that we have probably in racing today. And there she is holding her own with them. Really doing a nice job. Really impressed with her.
Currently ahead of that of teammate Chris Wright. Daytona winner Greg Van Alst, who's 2nd in points. Christian Rose, Amber Balkin, your top 10. For more on Tony, let's go to Heather.
And even the top 5 finish here really helped Tony with her racecraft, but she told me running Flat Rock just a few months ago actually helped her more because that race was more recent. She got a top 5 finish there, and she said she's confident she can do it again tonight. But I also checked in with her crew chief, Caden Lapsevich, and he said, we're really good here. We have really good speed. The one thing he does want her to work on is executing through lap traffic.
That's a great point, Heather. And Phil, as we mentioned earlier tonight, even though some of these drivers haven't run on a track like this on the ARCA Menard Series side, some with East and West experience, they've been able to take some of that knowledge and put it into not only this race, but the few that we've got upcoming as well.
Yeah, when Heather was talking about Flat Rock, that's where I grew up. I grew up about 30 minutes from that racetrack in Flat Rock, Michigan. And I don't know that there's a racetrack anywhere on earth that's like Flat Rock. This does have some similar characteristics, but Flat Rock is all its own.
A lot of lessons to be learned there, I'm sure. And Tony's brought him right here to Marne, Michigan, with Sawalich still the leader, but in the mix still with some traffic. That 31 car that he's passing, Tim Goulet, they're actually en route to Irwindale for the pair of ARCA Menard Series West races that are upcoming for he and that team. Done a great job putting things together. Now we're starting to see the leader lap up into the top 10. That's a battle for position out the windshield. The 35 of Greg Van Alst, the 32 of Christian Rose. That's 8th and 9th respectively. They're not going to yield like some of these cars may have been all night long, as they want to stay on the lead lap, especially with that race break coming.
Yeah, so important for these drivers to be able to stay in the lead lap. I don't think Christian Rose is going to be able to hold off the 18. He's not. Right now he's in the free pass position, but if the 18 of Sawalich is able to get by Greg Van Alst in the 35, then that would lock him 1 lap down, and that's not something you want to do here.
Here's the battle for 4th position. We've got Andres Perez and Gavin Bochelle fighting things up while we were watching the leader thread the needle. Here's Bochelle and Andres Perez. We've seen this before, splitting Ryan Roulette in the middle of the field, this time on the backstretch.
That's the second time Ryan Roulette has been split in this field. But it took all the momentum that Bochelle had away. Now he's going to try to get inside of Perez once again. Again, we're only about 10 laps from our next race break. And I know Bochelle would like to get this pass done because he has Tony Breinger right behind him as well.
Seen a good bit of respect between these two as Perez will concede the spot. I spoke with Gavin during the week, and he could not express his gratitude towards all the folks at TRD for putting this deal together for him. He's not necessarily sure if he's going to have a chance to run any more of these particular races, but he does plan on running many of the Crown Jewel Super Late Model races left in 2024. But Gavin was just elated with this chance, and he's doing everything he can to make the most of it tonight.
Well, Toyota does such a nice job giving young drivers an opportunity. We've seen Isabella Robusto be extremely impressive in her opportunities, and she's going to get a couple more opportunities here as well. Gavin Bochelle, just the latest in the long line of Toyota drivers that they're giving an opportunity here.
Talk about busy racers. This driver, dirt, pavement, Trans Am, you name it. Was under the tutelage of dirt driver Kevin Swindell for several years, and now very happy to be in the Venturini fold, as he told me during the week. We're hoping to see Gavin out here for more. As Sawallish had that lead up to about 2.5 seconds. The traffic kind of cut it down to 1.5 seconds. Now it's some clear running room. He's starting to extend the margin over Hagnerani. So we're about, give or take, 5 laps away from that expected caution for the race break.
Yeah, Van Alst was unfortunately put a lap down, so he now is in the free pass position. Chris Wright is the next car that would be in front of Sawallish, but I think he's far enough ahead that he will not get lapped before this race break coming in about 5 laps.
This race starting to have a bit of a similar feel to what we saw here 1 year ago. We didn't have that many cars in the lead lap at the finish, but it didn't stop the race from ending in dramatic fashion, where Sawallish was pretty much on the other end of a dominating battle. It was Jesse Love who led the most laps by a large margin, and Sawallish was able to sneak up there, nudge his way by, and steal it late to grab that first career win.
Yeah, we didn't think anybody was going to be able to touch Jesse Love last year, but as you mentioned, that traffic late in the race, he got to him with a couple laps to go, put the bumper to him, moved him out of the way, and was able to go ahead and grab that first career victory.
So Sawallish going by Michael Maples in the number 99 to put him another lap down. Maples, someone else who's committed to the full-time ARCA Menard Series slate in 2024 with fast track racing, as Sawallish is trying to just make it around a couple more laps to get to that point where he knows they will get a last chance effort to work on that race car, as will the rest of his competition.
There's that third place running LeVar Scott there in the 6th car.
That battle for second kind of simmered down for just a little bit between that of Sean Hagnerani and LeVar Scott. As Sawallish puts another lap on the board, we should expect to see the yellow potentially right about now. 4th caution of the night, 2nd for our race breaks, and this will be the final time we will see a yellow for such cause, with William Sawallish having led 119 laps tonight, and he's going to try to hopefully lead the rest of the way. One last chance for the race teams to work on their cars. We'll be right back. It's the summer of stars and stripes as Christian Pulisic and Team USA continue their quest for Copa America glory when they take on Uruguay this Monday. Pre-game coverage is going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern, with the game kicking off at 9 only on FS1.
Yeah, after that close loss to Panama, it's a must-win for the USA on Monday to make the round of 16.
Good opportunity to grab a couple of bags of Hers snacks and kick back and relax on a Monday night and watch some soccer. Second and last opportunity for the race teams to adjust their cars. For an update down trackside, let's go to Heather.
And there's been an unexpected change for the team of Venturini Motorsports. Their defending championship-winning crew chief Shannon Rush has left the team this week after 6 years with them. So they had to do some swapping around. So the 55 team and Kevin Reed Jr., that crew went over to the 20, and now he will be crew chiefing the 20 the rest of the season. And then they called up his dad, Kevin Reed Sr., to work as the crew chief for tonight's race for the 55 of Gavin Bochelle. Now, all of those teams with Venturini are currently running in the top 10. And when I talked to Billy Venturini, he said it's business as usual for us. We are here to win. It got away from us last year, so we want some redemption. But right now on the handling of the number 20, of Sean Hangarani. He's currently running in second, and he told the team he's pretty good. He said he feels like it could be a little bit better in cutting the center of the corner, but so far pretty happy with that race car. And then the 55 of Gavin Boschel, he said he needs help on entries, just a little bit but once he got into his rhythm, he got better. But his crew chief, Kevin Reed Sr., said one thing we got to do is clean up the restarts. That's where we're getting our tails kicked, but you've been doing really great in traffic.
Yeah, Kevin Reed Sr. now certainly has the credentials. It was a great coup by the Venturinis to be able to get Kevin. He's been doing a little stuff part-time. He was with Mason Mitchell, who ran at Iowa just a while ago. He was his crew chief when Mason Mitchell won the championship here in the ARCA Menard Series. So it's a great benefit to be able to get somebody of the caliber of Kevin Reed Sr.
As Heather said, all of their cars right now running inside the top 10, with Sean Hangarani the highest runner in the second spot. Fans getting ready for the last stint of the Her Snacks 200 coming up.
Love has led the entire way. He's the control car, and here we go. William Sawalich, what does he have with 2 to go?
Some lap cars in front of Jesse Love.
Jesse Love getting held up by those lap cars, and now Sawalich. He's had his bumper, trying to get underneath the 20 car. William Sawalich off of turn 4. Fire behind the left front of the 20 car. He's led all night long, but it's William Sawalich with a late move on the final lap. The 16-year-old wins.
Got the job done in spectacular fashion last year. Tonight's been rather dominant for that of William Sawalich. We are back here at the Berlin Raceway for the Her Snacks 200, wrapping up our second race break and fourth caution of the night in front of the passionate crowd of race fans who have come out to this incredible facility. General Manager Jeff Striegel, familiar voice for many who may listen to some stock car races over at MRN Radio. He has so much passion and pride with his team and how they put events on at this speedway. They've got everything from big super late model shows, super modifieds with former NASCAR driver Johnny Benson coming to town. There's so much to look forward to at this facility, and tonight they put the ARCA Menard Series in as bright of a spotlight as they can for any other race all year long.
Yeah, you talk about Johnny Benson, former Truck Series champion. He was this was his home racetrack for years and years, and that's why he comes. He loves the super modifieds.
See some of the fans enjoying that. Johnny Benson, part of what is a who's who in terms of the Berlin Raceway Hall of Fame. Bob Seneker, who won his first career ARCA race here, part of that Hall of Fame. Butch Miller, Johnny Benson Jr. and Sr. And just last year, they unveiled an 8-foot tall by 120-foot wide Hall of Fame wall at the racetrack that fans could walk through. And each and every year, they continue to add the champion from their premier division. As you can see, these fans are ready to see how this race is going to pan out.
Got Hangarani's going to start to the outside of Sawalich. We saw Andres Perez wrestle the lead away from Sawalich on that last restart. Let's see what Hangarani can do.
Hangarani on the outside in that 20 car, reigning ARCA Menard Series West champion. Inside, William Sawalich, the race leader, reigning ARCA Menard Series East champion and most recent winner in the ARCA Menard Series at Mid-Ohio 1 week ago. Row 2 is going to be that of LeVar Scott in the 6, Gavin Boschel in the 55, Tony Breidinger rounding out the top 5 as we get set to go. 70 laps to settle it from Berlin as Sawalich brings us back down to green.
What a great jump by Sawalich. He wasn't going to get caught with somebody to his outside this time.
LeVar Scott tried to keep the nose inside of Hangarani to have a chance to fight for second. Now he's going to get kicked up to the top groove by his teammate and Andres Perez in the fight for third.
You know, Andres Perez started off really well that last segment and then really faded. He was over 10 seconds behind our leader when that caution came out for the race break. Let's see if they were able to make some changes, undo maybe what they did on that first race break and get that car more competitive.
How about Chris Wright getting up into the top 5 and maybe more? Almost got down below Andres Perez in what was a battle for fourth. This is the highest we've seen Chris Wright all night long.
Maybe Chris Wright has been saving his equipment. Again, all these teams have 4 fresh tires on these cars. See Chris Wright all over the back of Perez. Did he make a little contact?
Might have had to kick him up but high enough in order to get inside to that of right, with Perez trying to hang on. And Phil, unfortunately, second burst appears to be similar to the first. Perez struggling a handful of laps off the restart as he's fallen back to 5th.
See Tony Breidinger trying to get inside Gavin Boschel. That is a battle for the 6th spot. Chris Wright is the guy that's on the move right now, up to the 4th spot.
And while they stay wheel to wheel, the car just behind them, Christian Rose, is 1 lap down. Now Greg Van Alst behind them is on the lead lap. He got the free pass when the caution came out. Rose trying to get that here should we see a yellow. But these Venturini teammates are nearly rubbing sides in this battle for what is the 6th position.
Nice run off the corner for Tony. She was down in the preferred line right next to that inside pit wall. Was able to grab that spot. Look at Christian Rose. They've made some improvements to that car as he tries to get inside of Boschel. That is not a battle for position.
A little bit of contact, and that may have knocked the 55 off the pace. Looked as though that he may have gotten a touch from Rose as he tried to get by. And now the 55 of Gavin Boschel, who started on the front row in this race, is off the pace.
Looks like the right front tire may be down on this 55 car. Looks like a right side tire. He stays on the racetrack though.
Bochel's going to try to keep motoring on here, as there may have been a little bit of a brush by Rose as he tried to get through and past Boschel in what was not a fight for position at the time. But again, Rose is trying to keep pace with the leaders, because should Sawalich get back up to put another car lap down, it would take him out of that free pass position.
Yeah, definitely an issue for the 55 of Boschel, and he knows if he comes to pit road that he'll lose at least 2 or 3 laps just taking the time to get to pit road.
All the while, clear of some of the midfield chaos behind him, William Sawalich has opened the lead up to over 2 seconds. Even though he lost that lead to Andres Perez on that initial restart following the first race break, he nestled into a bit of a groove, was patient to get the lead back, and he has continued to flex his muscle pretty much all night long. Sawalich still in command coming up on the final quarter of the Hearst Snacks 200 from Berlin. ARCA Menard Series Racing on FS1 is brought to you by General Tire. General Tire delivers the freedom to explore. And by Reese's. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Reese's, not sorry. Less than 50 laps to go in the Hearst Snacks 200 here at the Berlin Raceway. William Sawalich has led over 147 times around so far here this evening. And he is currently nursing a 2-second advantage over that of Sean Hagnerani, with LeVar Scott rounding out the current podium.
Yes, just a few moments ago we saw the 55 of Gavin Boschel looked like he had some sort of an issue. He has stayed on the racetrack. The platform of the car, Heather, does not look right, so something definitely wrong with that 55 car.
That's right, Phil. I confirmed with his crew chief, Kevin Reed Sr., that it's a right front sway bar. That's what the issue is. So the team instructed him to stay out on the track because they could not afford to come down to change it unless if they get a caution. He just reported over the radio it's getting really hard to steer. So his spotter, Travis Braden, told him, keep at it. Just fight through it if you can. That's what you're going to have to deal with this at that point. So a little bit of adversity here for the young driver of Gavin Boschel in his debut.
Yeah, he's been able to hold a pretty good pace up. Now, once he figured out how to drive it, he has to drive it a little bit differently without that front sway bar working. I know that car is hard to turn, but we only have 44 laps to go, and he should be able to hang on to a top 10 position. He's within probably about 4 seconds of our leader, William Sawalich, so he would love to stay on the lead lap. I think he would probably possibly need a caution flag maybe to stay on the lead lap, but there are some laps that he's in the top 5 speeds of the cars that are on the lead lap.
Heather mentioned the spotter for Gavin Boschel here tonight. Travis Braden, someone who won in his ARCA Menard Series debut, which Gavin Boschel was trying to do tonight. Phil, you know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to win my first ever ARCA Menard start back a long time ago. Let's just say it was a long time ago, and that was the one and only race that the ARCA Series ran at North Wilkesboro Speedway in North Carolina.
celebrating getting his win at IRP back in 2015. Michelle's going to need a little bit of help to try to do that here tonight. A driver searching for his first ARCA Menard Series win, running in second, Sean Hangarani. And we mentioned that he does, of course, have several ARCA Menard Series West victories and the title, but he is yet to win in the Premier Series. Perhaps the good news for Hangarani in the field, the last 3 ARCA races held here at Berlin, we had a driver lead over 190 laps. The last 2 times, that driver did not go to victory lane. Daniel Dye was bested by Sammy Smith in 2022. And of course, we showed you the highlight earlier. Jesse Love was a dominant car, and Sawallich nipped him right at the end. This thing is far from over.
Yeah, Daniel Dye had a dominant car that night. I remember that race, and something happened mechanically to him late in the race, and he ended up losing that win. But we showed the video of last year's race when Sawallich was able to catch Jesse Love in traffic and use that front bumper to move him out of the way and take the lead and go on to the win.
Sawallich now nursing what appears to be his biggest lead so far of the night, in excess of about 3 seconds. But as we touched on several times, sometimes traffic or catching a car in the wrong spot could be so detrimental to that gap. And Sawallich is hoping that he can hold a pretty wheel to try to get to the finish. Greg Van Alst got the free pass on the last race break caution. He's been able to stay on the lead lap so far and running in 7th.
Yeah, pretty solid effort. The car is actually a little bit better than it was, but holding down that 7th position is, he comes into this race 2nd points, and the guy in front of him is only 2 positions in front of him. So it looks like it will be a pretty decent point night here for Greg Van Alsten. He told Heather earlier during the day that he felt like he really needed to make some hay in these short track races, because that's his background, short track racing.
Greg has stated publicly he's aware that it's going to be difficult to close up that championship gap to that of Andres Perez, but he said it because he's aware of how good Perez and that team has been. But we mentioned the short track run that the series is about to be on, kicking off here at Berlin. There may not be anybody looking forward to the stretch of the schedule more than that driver right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. 4 short track races in a row, this being the first of 4.
Holding down the 7th position ahead of Gavin Michelle, who runs 8th, the last car on the lead lap. 8 cars still on the lead lap, with Sawallich continuing to lead out front, inching closer to about 30 laps to go in this race. There's Sawallich, the leader.
Doing a real nice job of just maintaining. He pulled out to that lead and then just, I think he's just running a nice pace. He's getting ready to catch Gavin Boschel in the 55 car. Gavin's running in the 8th spot right now. Christian Rose is the only car 1 lap down. If the 55 of Boschel goes a lap down, which he probably will within a couple laps, then for a while at least he will be in the free pass position. But Heather, that 18 car is set in pretty torrid pace.
Yeah, he's doing a great job so far, going for that 2nd win, which he really wants here at Berlin Raceway. But a fun fact about William Sawallich, those that may not know, he actually really loves music. Every time I go up into the hauler to talk to him, he's got a different song on. Last week, it was Ice Ice Baby. Today, it was Bust a Move. So I think he might be singing that song in his head right now.
He's busting some moves, isn't he, Eric?
Absolutely, and he's hoping to do so all the way to the finish. The sun has set here, and the lights are coming up at Berlin. William Sawallich trying to seal the deal with her Snacks 200. Coming up on 18 laps to go for the 18 car of William Sawallich, who has been the dominant car so far here tonight, looking for his 2nd consecutive win here at the Berlin Raceway. A very special story in the field tonight involves number 12 car, Ryan Roulette. Now, through his VFW partnership, Ryan and his team continue to bring members of the organization to races. He also has a task of getting some of the servicemen and women to lend a helping hand on his car on race nights. Well, tonight, they've got a stacked crew. We'll show you what they look like in just a moment here as Roulette comes off the corner. From left to right, fueler Wyatt Hunt, Jackman Corbin Sklenner representing the U.S. Marines. Of course, driver Ryan Roulette in the center, active member in the U.S. Air Force. Austin Boyer of the U.S. Navy is the tire carrier. And Julie Price from the U.S. Army is the team's tire specialist. Now the team is also hosting Ramiro Ray Lopez, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps in Desert Storm, has been a part of the BMW for 28 years. He's holding the pit sign tonight. Just an incredible story and initiative, especially on the heels of the 4th of July holiday. And even though it's not been the night in which Ryan and company have wanted, I guarantee you that all of those servicemen and women are having a blast.
Yeah, just so nice for him to do that. Great battle on the racetrack. This is a battle for the 4th spot with just 15 laps to go. That's Chris Wright, the 15, and Andres Perez in the 2.
Chris Wright, who has worked his way up into the 4th position here tonight. You mentioned he is one of the 2 drivers in the field that came out here for the super late model race about a month ago.
I think it's paying dividends too, because he has definitely gotten better as this race has worn on.
His best finish this season was a runner-up effort at Talladega, finished 4th at Kansas a handful of rounds ago, looking for his 3rd top 5 and 4th top 10 on the season. As he came into this race 6th in championship points, looking to try to climb his way up into the top 5 in standings. He's doing a great job holding off the points leader right now.
If Perez would like to grab that spot, remember, Perez will get a bonus point for leading a lap when he was able to wrestle lead away on that restart from Sawalich. ARCA Series awards points for leading laps, awards points for pole positions, and awards points for leading the most laps. And I think Sawalich probably has the most laps led point locked up.
By a considerable margin. Aside from the 6 that Perez got earlier, as we come to the line with 10 to go, Sawalich has led the rest. You have to wonder if Sawalich has 2023 in the back of his mind. We mentioned the dominating effort that Jesse Loeb was putting on when Sawalich caught him through traffic in order to pass him coming to 2 to go and end up taking away the win in that race. I would imagine that's some additional incentive for Sawalich to continue to focus forward, especially as he starts to catch some cars. They're going to have a little more pace than some of those. He's been lapping throughout the night. Tony Breidinger is not that far up the road of the 18 car right now, as Tony runs in 6th spot, trying to stay on the lead lap to the finish.
Yeah, I think the important thing right now for Sawalich is he doesn't certainly want to cause any issues himself. He has Christian Rose, who right now is being shown 2 laps down, but running in the 9th spot, and Tony Breidinger. He doesn't need to push the issue as we continue to watch this battle for the 4th spot between Chris Wright and Andres Perez.
See Chris Wright's car getting a little bit loose as he gets back to the gas. Might be in some uncharted territory for some of these drivers and teams in terms of handling characteristics of this race car, or of their race car. This is probably going to be about the hardest they've pushed all night long in this last stretch to the finish. With Sawalich out in front by over 4 seconds. This is the best battle on the racetrack for the 4th position.
It's been all Sawalich, though, other than that brief period where Perez was able to wrestle the lead away as we come down to 5 laps to go, Eric.
5 to go, and 2nd spot is still in doubt. Here's LeVar Scott diving to the inside of Sean Hagnerani for the 2nd position in turn 1.
Wow, what a strong move by LeVar Scott, looking to get his best career finish here in the ARCA Series.
His best finish was 4th at Dover earlier in the season. And for a driver who has not been to Berlin before, leaning on the tutelage of drivers who have had success here in the past, LeVar Scott has figured this place out pretty quickly.
Yeah, solid effort for LeVar Scott and that team.
You mentioned, Phil, this could be a best career effort for that of LeVar Scott. 4th was his best finish 4 times. Daytona, Iowa, last year along with Kansas, and of course Dover earlier this season. What a great night for the Rev Racing driver.
Remember, another one of our regulars here in the series, so that's going to be a great point night for LeVar Scott.
All the while, William Sawalich continues to exercise a lead over 3.5 seconds. Got to navigate his way around a little bit more traffic. But here comes William Sawalich. He's coming up to the white flag. Battle for 4th is going to go right down to the wire between Wright and Perez. 1 lap to go. Perez, the point leader, trying to get up to 4th in the final few corners, but William Sawalich has been the dominant car all night long. It's going to be back-to-back wins in the ARCA Menard Series for William Sawalich. 2nd year in a row, he claims Berlin Raceway. And for fourth, Perez with a last-ditch effort to try to get by Chris Wright at the line, but it's not going to happen. Wright hangs on to fourth behind LeVar Scott with a career-best effort in second, and Sean Hagnerani third. But by far the dominant car and driver, William Sawalich, 194 laps led en route to his third win of the season and seventh of his career.
Just so impressive. But this young man continues to impress week in, week out.
Fourth win for this 18 car in 2024 in 9 races, 3 of which Sawalich was the one holding the steering wheel. Tanner Gray got the team a victory at Charlotte as well, but this is a place in which William knows the way to victory lane already in his young career.
18 career starts in the ARCA Menard Series. He's led laps in 14 of those 18 races.
Came into the night as the leader in terms of laps led on the season. He's going to add about the same amount of laps that he led up to this point in the season. He's going to more than double that by the result here tonight at Berlin. And in front of the capacity crowd, he's going to burn down the house on the front straightaway. Not too far from home for the Eden Prairie, Minnesota native. This is something in which he's done once before, and he hopes to do many, many more times in his career, and that is burn down the house after grabbing yet another trophy in his career.
I think he'll, because of the age restrictions, he'll end up running about 13 races this year, and I don't think he's done going to victory lane yet.
Certainly proven to be a force to be reckoned with on the short tracks, and as we've been talking about all night, this is the part of the season where if you want to flex some muscle on some of the shorter and tighter venues that the ARCA Menard Series visits, now's the time, and William has already started to do just that by winning this race here this evening.
And for our regulars, maybe LeVar Scott is making a bit of a statement. Hey, don't count me out yet.
See, our unofficial results are going to scroll across the bottom portion of your screen. Is Sawalich the winner, Scott your second, and Sean Hagnerani rounding out your top 3. Chris Wright with a great night as well, and Andres Perez, the points leader, able to get into the 5th position after leading 6 laps on the night and faded late after the last restart as well, but is still able to notch another top 5 in his column for 2024.
Yeah, solid top 10 finish, a 6th place finish on the lead lap for Tony Breidinger.
Hats off to everybody here at the Berlin Raceway. We talked about the work that had to be done to get this track race ready after some of the storms came through. And they still have a lot of racing left to go. At this track this season, over 19 different divisions and classes of cars compete at the Berlin Raceway in 2024. And they gave us an entertaining show for all 200 laps. Even though Sawalich led just about all of them, it was still a very fun race to watch all throughout. And we'll get a chance to hear from Sawalich on how he feels to get back into victory lane here at Berlin.
See the crew lining up behind the car. It's not a one-man effort for sure. William Sawalich does an amazing job behind that steering wheel, but those guys standing behind the car make it happen too.
In terms of career trajectory, William got his start in quarter midgets, not too far from home in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Then it jumped into full-bodied stock cars at about 2022 with that of Dennis and Brandon Setzer's Setzer Racing and Development Team. And it wasn't too long that he caught the attention of Joe Gibbs Racing. He was able to grab the wheel of this ARCA car, and he's been making the most of it for the last 2 years as he will climb from the car in victory lane with his team to get what I'm sure is a much appreciated water down there on what was even though the stat column may tell you he pretty much dominated this race, I'm sure he was working all night long. Let's hear from our winner. Heather DeBow is with William Sawalich.
Yes, and William Sawalich, 2nd consecutive win, 3rd of the season for you, an absolutely dominant performance. I heard you tell your team that the car drove like a dream tonight, so can you describe just exactly how good this 18 machine was for you this evening?
Yeah, for sure. We had a really good Starkey Sound Gear Toyota Camry tonight. Can't thank the guys enough. In practice, I didn't know it was this good, but for sure proved a point here. Definitely a tough track, so glad we got to tame it and beat everybody pretty good, so it felt really good.
You told me earlier today, and you just mentioned it, this is a tough track. You said that at times it's hard to even collect your thoughts. So take us through a lap here at this unique oval.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the front stretch is anything like I've ever seen. So, I mean, it's just weird already going into turn 1. And then I've really gotten to a good rhythm. Sean helped me get into a good rhythm there. So can't thank him enough. So really just a good team effort here, and really proud to be able to do this.
You spoke about the team effort. You guys swept the points today by winning the pole. You also led the most laps, won the race. You now have moved into the lead for the Owners' Championship. What does that mean to you at this moment in the season?
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. It's a turning point in the season. Really good for the Joe Gibbs Racing organization.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. And I'll tell you, Heather brings up that owner's points battle. That's a big deal as well. As far as the championship, Andres Perez gained a couple of notches over Greg Van Alst when the results were all tallied.
Yeah, but LeVar Scott's closing in a little bit, now only 46 points behind. A lot of racing left to go here, Eric. 11 more races here remain in the season.
Following our next race, we'll be just about at the halfway point in the 20-race calendar with IRP coming up next. But a great night for that of William Sawalich, and he's going to be taking another one of those Berlin Raceway trophies home with him. ARCA Racing is going to return to FS1 Friday, July 19th at 5:30 p.m. from IRP. It's going to be in conjunction with that of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race that will be taking place that night as well, and I can guarantee you that Sawalich will be a threat to win that as well. On behalf of our entire hardworking and dedicated team, Heather DeVoe, Phil Parsons, I'm Eric Brennan. So long from Michigan. We'll see you next time.